Te Aratai.
Just te Aratai. There were a lot of questions put through on this one, so please don't ask the ones on the map again unless you need clarification of your answer.
Yeah.
Right, do you want to do an introduction?
So, by way of an introduction, Te Aratai College Cycleway Connection is one of our key transport choices projects. It's a cycling project intended to connect two MCRs whilst linking with Te Aratai College. Of just in terms of support, we've got some additional design support here with any of the detailed questions that might crop up. And I'll hand over to you, Sam, for the consultation.
66% of the 78 submitters were in full support of this proposal. Themes included support for the cycleway, concern about race safety platforms, and concern about bus stop locations, as well as parking loss and the impact on side streets. Requests included further intersection safety treatments to Ferry Road into Albwins and vice versa, and further traffic calming at side streets, as well as extensions to the cycleway. The primary change to this plan as a result of consultation is retention of the 19 parking spaces for businesses at Ferry, Albwins and Ensore's intersection.
Sorry, just to add to that, this has got strong support from the community board and from the school, so I think we need to bear that in mind.
Thank you. Councillor Templeton, did you have would it be a noting report?
Yeah, I was just the school had mentioned, a few people had mentioned that pick up and drop off stuff, and the potential to work on that sort of on Harrow Street or Bordersley or sort of one of those. So I just put through a resolution that asks you to work, was it with the school and the community board on that? Yeah.
But wouldn't that be led by the community board? I think you'd lead.
I think it's just, but it's just a resolution to say.
I was thinking more of the unrestricted parking on Aldwins Road outside the businesses.
Oh, that's right. And that's right. Thank you.
Yeah.
And no time restrictions on those six parks.
That would be an amendment, that one, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So, because I think staff have found that agreeable and monitor it, and the community board can address that later.
Yep.
So, can you get some wording up for that, please? Are there any other questions? Councillor Coker, did you have one? Did you have a question? Okay. Councillor Johansson?
Is anyone going to talk to the integrated traffic assessment and the traffic modelling that I've asked quite a few times?
Yeah, so what the latest from our transport planners who looked at that question early this morning, they were not aware of an integrated transport assessment being prepared for the school. They suspect one doesn't exist, which is often the case for Ministry of Development developments which basically have approvals through separate processes. So we're not aware that there is actually an ITA available for the school.
No, but they're doing a school.
There is, because the memo that we've had previously, 2.41, a school zone was suggested as an integrated transport assessment produced by the Ministry of Education as part of Linwood College rebuild, an expansion, resource consent. And I supplied that to staff a few days ago with the actual...
Well, that's I use all as I can relay is the information we've received from the planners. Okay. There was a requirement for the school to do a school travel plan, which I believe that they've done.
Yeah.
So I guess, I'm just really struggling with this one because there's so much complexity, and I just feel like we don't have do we have any data around like the number of pickups and drop-offs each day by car versus people cycling, walking, etc.?
Bearing in mind, Councillor Johansson, that this is the idea of this is actually to increase the number of cycling people, students.
No, I'm concerned about. I'm not concerned about the cycleway. I'm
change.
concerned about the design based on the submitters that we've heard, including the school, who raised concern about the pickup and drop-off. So I just don't feel like we have enough information to understand what the consequences are of the design on the traffic. And the other question that I still haven't had answered was, how far back did we go around informing people around the consultation?
All right, well, that's another question. So just dealing with the first one, and Councillor Templeton has put up a noting for the community board to work with the school around that pick-up and drop-off. The school and the board supported this, so I don't think we have an issue there.
The school raised a concern around the pickup and drop off.
And we've got a system to address that now in the noting report, and that's all we can do.
Okay, but is there any data? Like, do we have any data at all?
I think the answer has been no on that.
Not at the moment, no.
Right,
Not in
no.
the timeframes that we've
So you either move an amendment or move on, please, because you can't be hammering this. Your second question.
Okay, so the second question was around how far we actually engaged people on the
Right.
side streets.
So Sam, can you please
And
respond to
surrounding
that?
neighbourhood.
On the side streets.
In terms of the side streets, I don't have a distribution map available, but my understanding is that the full route between Ara and Linwood Ave were letter dropped, which means they got the full scheme plan and a request that staff would come and visit them if they had any questions. If they weren't home, it was a sorry we missed you, here's the scheme plan. In terms of the side streets, the wider Linwood area, and I don't have the exact distribution map for you right now, but I can provide that, were flyer dropped with the overarching plans for what was planned in the Linwood area. So it was a number of projects in Linwood, so those were all spelled out. I believe that they got 2 flyer drops, one in late May and one in mid-June.
Thank you. That answers that question.
And did we get the option around the Flaxwood? So the shed. Well, the question was options around parking retained around Flaxwood Lane social housing units. Is there any parking surveys for the area? And was keen to move an amendment to extend the shared path on that particular stretch. So,
Can I comment on that? I think given the constraints that we've had around the design from Wakakatahi, I think if you were to extend the shared path, this wouldn't get funding. So I can't say for certain, but that's my understanding of where we've been so far.
So that is-
It was hard going to keep the car parks
Yes.
on the corner of Baldwins
Yep.
and Ferry Road. So I think we would struggle to keep our funding.
So to put that in context, if you think about the design process, we came up with a scheme design. We put that through Wakakata and they're relatively comfortable with it. We put it out to consultation and the issues with parking became apparent. And as a consultation response, we gave back the 19 car parks, which we then had to give back to Wakakata for their approval. And that was quite a point of contention that we had extended the shared path at the expense of the separated cycleway, to the point that that was one of the more likely reasons why this project wouldn't proceed past the design approval perspective. And we as staff had to advocate quite closely for that community outcome that we'd negotiated, and to I guess to walk that back or to look at other extensions of shared path, that is quite a specific risk with Wakakatahi funding.
For this specific project.
Yes.
Okay, so Yanni, I think we'll have to take that as a no. That's guidance from staff, and they're the ones doing the negotiation.
we
We've
can't
got a mover,
move an amendment.
Mel, and seconder, Councillor Donovan. And have you got an amendment?
Sorry, so I just want to be clear though. So we can't move an amendment to that effect, or we can?
You can if you want to, but the staff have given us advice that it won't be accepted by Wakakata, who've already indicated that. You can move an amendment.
and
You'll
the
need a
question-
seconder, and you'll need to have it
Yeah.
passed.
And the
So just follow the process if you want to do that.
yeah, sure. But the other question that I asked was, why does Wakakatahi have a different standard for the ones that they're funding us to do versus the ones they're doing on their own roads?
Don't ask me. Ask
That's not something that we can answer.
Right.
You need to ask.
Okay, is there an amendment?
Yeah.
All right, can we have it, please? The Councillor Templeton's, yep. So we've got a mover and a seconder. Have you got a question, Councillor Moore? Yep.
Thank you. Just on the raised platform, so if you use the Lincoln Road example, it caught a lot of people off guard when they were first using it. It wasn't as clearly marked at first. What will be done to avoid that happening in this case on these two raised platforms? And it not catching anyone off guard, hitting it at 50 k's, having the tools hitting the roof of the van and pie going everywhere,
Dog flying out the window.
dog flying out the window.
We do learn quite a lot of lessons from Lincoln, Barrington, Whiteley. In addition to the triangle markings that need to go on the ramps, we do have the warning signs which we would normally look to gate. At that point, we couldn't because it would have blocked the visibility of the signal. We then installed some information signs to warn people of the speed hump ahead. I have been looking around New Zealand as to what other cities are doing. And Hamilton do use it's like a thermoplastic treatment, so it looks grey. And it looks red on top so that you have more of awareness of those. So we haven't looked at that yet, but we can through detailed design just to really lift. We would also put it out through our newsline and other kind of channels, and we can inform the local users more as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very
I
much.
think it's good, important that the lessons are being learned. Councillor Peters?
Thank you. I just wonder whether is it worth us adding a noting provision in here for staff to work with the Steadfast Books, Heath Ling, after his deputation this morning.
They've already agreed to do that, but if
I
that
know,
makes,
but
if
could we
that
put it
makes
as
you
noting?
comfortable, can we just note that staff will work with Steadfast Books and
thank
make
you.
a site visit with him?
Oh, just the other one was at McDonald's. Quite the proposal from the McDonald's owner to use some of that land for footpath. Clearly not part.
Sponsor this, Sarah, on that
Yeah,
one.
but do we need a noting provision for you to go ahead and maybe do some work in that space, or does it just get incorporated into the program? That was my.
That would be fine
Yeah.
if you were minded to put a noting provision.
It would
Yeah,
be
and
useful.
we can report back to the community board or something, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'll flick through another.
Do you want to note that?
Yeah,
Note that staff will pick up on the suggestion from McDonald's regarding the
footpath,
The
on
footpath.
Linwood Ave.
Yeah.
Linwood Ave. So if there's no other questions, it's been moved and seconded. Yanni, do you have a question?
Yeah, the question, which I can't see the answer in here, but it was around the sort of safety assessment of the buses going past and pulling into the cycle lane. And we heard from the students as well today that that was a real area of concern.
Okay.
So what's the safety assessment around that?
Well, that's been another issue of, I guess, what I can say is they've been safety audited, and it's been interrogated quite closely with Waka Kotahi as well, and we're quite satisfied that we've landed on an appropriate outcome.
I mean, these are things that happen. You've got driveways that come out and cross cycleways. You've got parked cars that come into car parks across cycleways. It's just a cooperation of traffic that we need to all work on, working together and sharing the road. So if there are any other questions, no other questions? Is there any debate? Okay.
Yeah, so I just moved the amendment. So I'll just move that.
Oh, sorry, your amendment, Yanni, I'm sorry. Have you got it up?
So just trying to get the exact wording. Would just call it the eastern side. So it's that the design between Ferry Road to Sullivan Ave be amended to a shared path for its entire duration in response to concerns raised by the submitters.
Do you have a seconder for that? There's no seconder, so that fails. There's no debate. Is there any debate?
Yeah.
Councillor Templeton and
Yanni go
Councillor
first.
Johansson.
So, yeah, I find this is probably one of the more challenging projects, and I think what's really apparent is, I think it was really interesting hearing from the submitters from Westmoreland, and just to see the difference in how engagement works in some communities and in not others. I asked the staff how many people along this route had actually made submissions, and I think the answer was 4. And I'm really concerned that the impact of this, the holistic collective impact of what we're proposing, is incredibly significant. And we seem to have a real lack of data to show what the effects will be. But also, I think this is an example where we actually need to spend more time working with our communities rather than doing to communities via Waka Kotahi. And so I'm really concerned. The initial proposal was actually a path on the eastern side of Entles Road, that's what the community board was shown and was amenable to. We had CRAF CRAF funding put aside of about $300,000. It used some of the existing berm on that eastern side, and I think it was a pretty good solution. We were also told at the time that there was an integrated traffic assessment, but I'm really amazed that a project that has gone up significantly in cost, complexity, and engineering it lacks any sort of evidence or data to show what the effects will be. And so I just don't feel as a council we're in a position today to actually be able to approve this. I'll be abstaining on this. I think we must get that integrated traffic assessment and modelling as a basic understanding of what the impact will be. I mean, to hear even the school saying they were really concerned about the pickup and drop off, and we're basically removing that if we agree to this today, is incredibly concerning. I'm also incredibly disappointed that the local residents' views, trying to find a solution in response to their submissions, and I appreciate we've tried to do it with some of the businesses, but actually we also heard today from the local businesses, they want more time to work this through. And I would think that it would only be fair to the local residents to respond in a way that means we give options to respond to their concerns, rather than simply being told Waka Kotahi won't allow it. We haven't even asked Waka Kotahi. And how democratic is it that people enter in good faith into a consultation process, but then we can't make amendments based on what they submit because we've got Waka Kotahi sitting somewhere else in a room that doesn't have any accessibility to the local community making these decisions for us. So I support having a good cycleway and a connection into Te Aratai College. It should have been done at the same time that the school was being redeveloped, which I tried to get through the community board and have tried repeatedly around this council table to get a better relationship with the Ministry of Education. So we do integrated planning in our city rather than us as a council having to come in after schools are redeveloped, after they're redesigned, and retrospectively put in safety improvements in what is very limited space and land that we have. But, you know, it is important that we do get good cycleway connection in here. We actually have 2 other entrances to the college that may actually be far more preferable for cycling in terms of connecting into our MCRs and putting the cycleways in away from the busiest road, which, you know, Ainsworth Road is incredibly busy with lots of heavy vehicles. So I won't be supporting this today. I'll be abstaining. I think we need much more information and we need a far greater working with our community on what is a really significant impact.
Thank you. Councillor Templeton and Councillor Barber.
Kia ora. Thank you so much to staff for their work on this one. I know that when I was first on the community board back 2013, 2014, we were having issues where the school and others were really trying hard to get the safety improved on Albans Road outside the school for kids crossing the road, even with the signalised crossing. And I first came across the cycling issue when I was asked to go in and talk to a geography class at the school, and they were looking at transport in the area as a sort of an applied geography kind of thing. And it coincided with us starting the whatever it was called, Way Safer or something like that, with the pinpoint maps where people were asked in their communities to pinpoint the issues that they had and the concerns that they had in their community. And the community mentioned Albans Road and cycling access to the school. And we had 2 major cycleways at the same time, one, you know, about equidistant from the school, and needed to link the school to those. And while there are some lower traffic streets close to the school with the other school entrances away from Ainsworth Road, they wouldn't have any benefit for anyone coming to the school from the other side of Ainsworth Road, which is also a lot of the students that come from the other side of Ainsworth Road. And so going past the school to other streets wouldn't be of any use. Yes, people have mentioned pick up and drop off, and I do note that the Board of Trustees member who talked to us today did mention pick up and drop off being an issue, but actually was very specific about us working on Harrow Street and a way to increase the ability for people to pick up and drop off on Harrow Street, which is off Ainsworth Road. I'm so pleased to see this come at last, and I know that parents who contacted me when the zoning changed from Cashmere School were really concerned about the ability of students from the Opawa and Hillsborough area to be able to bike to what would be the new school at that point, because that was a couple of years ago now, and have been lobbying really hard to try and get the safe cycling access, and we heard from some of them today. So I'm really pleased that this is coming. I'm really pleased that it will be built soon, and that kids will be able to cycle safely there, but also that local residents will be able to safely bike to the mall and other places around. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Barber.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like I really get the cycle safety initiatives for young people cycling to school. I think that makes perfect sense. But sometimes it feels like Waka Kotahi are overplaying their hands and trying to run our ship. I mean, we say this is co-developed but sometimes it doesn't feel like it. If we want to make major changes, then the funding's at risk. It's like the golden handcuffs, basically. And they have very strict design parameters that we might not always choose. They don't like shared paths. I happen to think that actually they can be quite useful. School safety, I totally get that. And I want to congratulate the staff for pushing back on the 19 parks. I think that's really important. For people who have invested a lot of money in businesses, making some allowance for them. But, the struggle to get that past Waka Kotahi is frustrating. And I think that when we try to push back and introduce a more bespoke local solution for our community, our funding is threatened. They have tight schedules. They put these golden handcuffs on us. They make our staff have to work so hard to get all this information out in a quick solution so that we can get it done before the funding expires. And I resent that. I don't think it's right that they should treat us like that. But however, I think, broadly on the balance of it, I do like the way that they've funded this. It's just the way they control us I find frustrating.
Thank you. Councillor Kewen?
Yeah, there's a number of aspects of this I like, and I have some sympathy for some of the points raised by Yoni and Kelly, especially around shared paths. I quite like shared paths, and I know I'm not meant to say that out loud, but I do. And what the biggest complaint around them is around pedestrians and stuff. Simple rule: get a bell. I have a bell on all my bikes. You don't yell, ring the bell. It's pretty simple. Like that, thank you. And that lets you know someone's coming through, and it's quite courteous. The most popular cycleway in the country will open soon, the Coastal Pathway, and it'll have the Summer of Love. Will probably be this summer or the following, as it builds in popularity. It is going to be sensational, and it's a shared path. And I do encourage, maybe we should give away 1,000 bells to people down there and stuff to use the shared path better, but there's other ways to skin that cat other than to say, no, we're going to take out tons of parking and upset all the neighbours because we can't do a shared path. So I think we should look around that. The other point I will raise on this, which I don't believe as a council we have a mandate to do, and that is the raised platforms. We haven't got the public on our side on them. We haven't spoke to the public enough about them. I think on main roads like this, they just interfere with the flow of the network far too much. If speeding through that intersection, or those two intersections, is that big a deal, high def cameras, fine every single person, just a sign up that says every person breaking a rule here will be fined, and watch the behaviour change real quick. But putting in that hard infrastructure, it'll just create a lot more colourful language in the area as people drive through. And they're not people that normally submit to council because they're just hard-working, everyday Kiwis getting on with their thing. They don't engage with this room. Our big consultations get us 0.25% of the population engaging. So I just don't believe we have a mandate, and so for that, I just can't support this. Although I do support the cycle access to the school. I think that's a great thing, and I do look forward to seeing some results over time where we look at where we've done all this infrastructure and go, the number went from here to here, or it didn't move, or it went down, whatever, but that we can see those numbers and see where the really big wins and what caused those big wins, because then we'd be making decisions evidence-based.
Thank you. Councillor Donovan?
I wasn't going to speak, but I think it is important to acknowledge who we're designing these safer roads for, and we heard from a few of those people today, which for some of the high school students. It's great to know that now we've got more choice in terms of how you travel. I recall going to high school and not having the option of biking, and I think talking to the students afterwards, their view was that the reason that they can bike now is because there are transport options for them. They prefer biking because they've got that independence, and they have noted that for them getting from A to B, and some of them are travelling quite long distances, has become better over time because they've got more transport connections. But they did talk about trying to get along that road and finding it incredibly difficult without that separation. So, when I think to who we're doing this work for, it's not just about the people that are using the road today, but for generations beyond us. So I'm just very excited about this one. So thanks for your work on it.
Yeah, I agree with that, Councillor Donovan. The thing is that you can say, as Councillor Johansson indicated, perhaps they could use the other entrances, but part of our rationale is that cyclists have rights and pedestrians have rights, and they have the right to use the road. Therefore, our responsibility is to make that safe for them, and this is the case on Aldwin's Road. And as you say, they've got their independence, but they go other places after school. It's not just one route. And so that's one thing. But I do agree with Councillor Johansson about the Ministry of Education when they relocate schools or do major improvements. It would be nice to have some collaboration in treating the transport impacts on that. But it's not the fault of the council. I think we have tried very hard to work with them. So that's something that could potentially be a remit for the next local government conference, so keep that in mind. Our own staff don't actually support shared paths unless they're absolutely necessary either, not just Waka Kotahi. They're not best practice, but they do have their place. So in light of that, I'll be supporting this today, which has been moved and seconded. And did you want to speak as well, Councillor Peters? Councillor Henstock and then Peters.
Thank you for that. I'd like to say thanks to the staff who've worked really hard in this space in a really tight time frame, and also a shout out to the public who presented yesterday and today, because I know that it's not easy. So thank you to them. I think the fact remains that the submissions and the deputations really are quite a narrow glimpse of the public sentiment around these initiatives, and it really concerns me greatly that actually we're not hearing more from members of the public in relation to the changes that are actually going to have quite a far-reaching consequences for a number of residents, local communities and the road users. You know that I always ask myself my 4 questions, so I'm not going to let you down today. And the first question is always, is it making sense? And so I have to say to myself, what is the problem that we're trying to solve here? And a lot of the promotional material about this initiatives, it gives us the clue, which is it's way safer streets. And I'm just not convinced that this initiative is actually going to make our streets way safer. We heard some really articulate submissions today from one lady who raised the concerns about the increased complexity at the intersections and creating enormous distractions for road users who are trying to navigate the intersections. So I'm not convinced that it is the way to do that. And the second question I always ask is, what is the evidence telling us? And I know the evidence is there that separated cycling infrastructure is beneficial, and I do not dispute that. But I hear what Councillor Johansson said, and I'm just not seeing the evidence that we need in relation to the integrated traffic modelling and the underlying data to support the changes that we've got. It's just not there. When it comes to prudent use of our resources and spending of our council money, I think our money can be more legitimately spent on improvements to our crossing points and our intersections, the infrastructure around that, the infrastructure around our street design, and the things that are probably going to give us more bang for our buck in creating way safer streets. Finally, I always look at the process that we've used to get here, and I know that the staff have done their very best in the short time frame that we've had, but to me the fact remains that this has been incredibly rushed, and I really don't think that we're taking the community with us. Pick up on some of the comments from Councillor Johansson again, where this is being done to the community and not with the community. So in conclusion, whilst I fully support an accessible city, and there's some aspects of this that I really do like, obvious safety benefits that will come from this, I'm not convinced that this is the only way to create safer streets, and the focus has probably been a little bit too narrow for my liking. To my mind, this is really nothing short of kowtowing to Waka Kotahi, and I quite liked Councillor Barber's comments about the golden handcuffs, and I really just can't support that, where we're really held to ransom on that funding. I won't be supporting this recommendation today.
Thank you. Councillor Peters.
Thank you. I'm in 2 minds on this one, even now. I like the idea of the safe routes to and from schools. That's absolutely crucial. I just don't like, as Councillor Barber stated, the golden handcuffs that we've had on us by Waka Kotahi. I would have liked to have actually seen Waka Kotahi here in the room with us for these last 2 days, to be able to hear the community and be able to liaise with us directly about what they might be able to accept and not accept. It almost feels like we're being backed into a corner with a gun to your head, and I don't like that. I feel like as Councillor Johansson said, we're doing it to the community rather than with the community. I pick up on the raised speed humps with Councillor Keown over there, and it's not going to be the locals that have too much of a problem with this. It's going to be more those travelling through, and I would be picking, we wouldn't have got a lot of response and submissions from people who are travelling through this area, so they're going to be quite surprised when they see these humps going in. So they're the ones who are going to have the bad reputation as a council for putting those in place. I also was very surprised this morning to see Heath Ling from Steadfast Books come in to talk to us. I was one of the first, I think, around this table to reach out to Heath. I put up a post regarding this consultation, and he responded quite surprised. So I was able to go back to him and say, look, as a council, we don't decide anything until we're making the decision. So please, be assured that nothing is set in stone. And we will work with you, and we will try and get this to a place. And I'm very pleased that we've got this noting provision in there to work with him, because we really need to. This man has his livelihood invested in this location, in this shop, and to do this to him rather than with him would be a tragedy. So I'm still in two minds as to whether to support or whether to not support this. I really do like the cycle infrastructure to and from schools. I think that's absolutely critical, and I'm looking forward to the day that we can look at doing this right across the city, not just in this one particular instance, but let's do it for everyone, so that we can get all the kids to and from school safely. That would be truly marvellous. There's a number of schools out in my area that would just love to have a safe cycle route to and from school. The numbers of kids cycling to school in Hornby, I imagine, would be incredibly low, because it's really hard to get there. So I'll see what I do when it comes time to the vote, as to whether I support or not. I've got to make my mind up pretty quickly, but thank you for all your work, staff, and thank you for trying to get this as well ironed out as you can. And here's hoping that we can work better with Waka Kotahi down the track to not have the rush that we have to have on this one. So
All
thank
right,
you for your work.
thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Opposed? That's Councillor Keown, Councillor Henstock. Opposed. Division, please. Beg your pardon? Can you just say which one you want to vote against when we do the division?
Trouble reading the screen with the light. You've added.
The mover and seconder agreed to incorporate the additional.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could put 111. Is it 112 and 113?
So you're asking that recommendations 112 and 113 be put separately?
111, 112 and 113 be put together, but the substantive be put separately. Does that
Can
make
we
sense?
just note that Councillor Johansson will oppose it? Can you just say that when we do the division, please?
Well, that's not true. If you look like noting that staff will work with the box and the McDonald's, that's hardly substantive to it. It's a noting provision that I'd like to support. But if you don't want me to, if you don't think it's fair that someone can support that, it seems a bit bizarre. It's not contrary to the substantial.
But saying that you're in favour of no time restrictions when you're voting against having the car parks is a bit odd.
So we can do 1112 and 113, Yanni, for you. So can you just do that when we do the division next?
I can note if you're in support of a couple of those
Yes,
recommendations versus.
but Katie, we have to be careful that supporting or not supporting one section doesn't impact the rest of it, so it makes it pointless to do that. So what I'm saying is he can support 112 and 113 if he wants to oppose the rest. So let's just go and say what you want to.
So just to be clear then, we're going to have a division on all recommendations for this item number?
Yes.
1 through 1113?
Yes.
If you have separate things that you would like the minutes to note regarding your vote, please tell me.
No, I don't want to do that. It's only 1112 and 113 that would be possible to have a different vote on. So let's put the whole substantive, please.
Sorry, Pauline, I don't think there's anyone in the room against 112 and 113.
No, it's the other way round. Can we just put the motion?
If it is the vote like Yanni's asking, everyone in the room is going to be for those.
It's all right. At least they will. It's only Yanni that wants this. Can we please take the vote?
Yes. All right.
So we're putting the whole substantive?
Yes. Okay. Deputy Mayor Cotter.
Aye.
Councillor Peters.
Aye.
Councillor Coker.
Aye.
Councillor Fields.
Yes.
Councillor Donovan.
Yes.
Councillor Henstock.
I'm supporting 112 and 113, but not the rest.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councillor Moore.
Yes.
Councillor Johansson.
Abstain on the substantive, but support for 112 and 113.
Councillor Kewen.
Support 112, 113 and no.
Councillor Barber.
Yeah, so I'm going to abstain on the substantive and support 112 and 113.
Councillor McClellan.
Yes to all of it.
Councillor Templeton.
Aye to all of it.
8, 4, 2 against, 2 abstentions.
Thank you. That's carried. So we'll move on to item 8, which is the Richmond Green